Hey, today I'm going to show you how to teach your dog to walk nicely on a leash. This is something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's something that I really wanted to create a tutorial on because I think that a lot of methods that we see online really focus on punishment. And the problem with that is we have our dog guessing what they're supposed to do because we're punishing them for all the things we don't want them to do, which is a really inefficient way to train this. Instead of that, we're going to teach our dogs exactly what we want them to do today, and we're going to try to be as specific as possible. That's why I really recommend teaching our dog to walk to our side. We really want to highlight to them this is the area for them to hang out. What some people will do is encourage the dog to be able to walk anywhere as long as they're not pulling. I just find that that is a lot more confusing for the dog than telling them exactly what we want them to do. We're going to split it into two parts today, and I'll show you exactly how to get started on that in a moment. But one thing I wanted to go through beforehand was equipment. So a lot of people struggle with teaching their dog to walk nicely on a lead because they don't have the time to do it all of the time, right? Sometimes you just want to get out on a walk, you don't have time to be doing training, and that's completely understandable. And that's why we try to build that into the training that we're doing with the dogs by having one piece of equipment that means this is training time, and another piece of equipment that means, okay, we're just going for a walk and we're not constantly going to be undoing all of the training we're going to be putting in. Now, which pieces of equipment you use are completely up to you. I personally prefer a harness for the training piece of equipment. That's because harnesses don't put any pressure on the neck, so they're usually a much better option for the majority of dogs because we're not going to have any risk of long-term injury to the dog's neck. However, I'll leave it up to you as to what pieces of equipment you use, whether it's going to be a different lead, a different harness, whether you're going to use a collar. Just make sure you have some differentiation between a piece of equipment that you're using for training and a piece of equipment that you're using just to go for a quick walk. And then eventually, once your dog is trained, you can use the training piece of equipment permanently. Okay, so for part one, we're going to build up how many steps we can take with the dog at our side. This is a little bit like if you were teaching your dog to stay, you wouldn't start off with 5 minutes, you'd start off with a couple of seconds and build up. The beauty of this is getting rid of the treats takes care of itself, because as we build up more steps, we're rewarding less frequently. So let me show you how to get started with this. I'm going to take one step, and if he's at my side or behind me, then I'm going to reward. So let's do that. So one step. Yes, good, well done. Now, really important detail here. I'm rewarding parallel to my leg. That's because I want to encourage Jax to stay there. If I reward him in front of me, he's going to start trying to get out in front of me, and I want to encourage him to be right on my leg. So if I start that again. So now I've done one step, I'm going to keep building up. So let's go for 2 steps now. 1, 2, yes, good. Now we can go for 3 steps. 1, 2, 3, yes, good. Now, personally, I use the word yes to pinpoint exactly what I want, what I'm rewarding, right? So if I've said yes while he's at my side or behind me, then I'm going to reward even if he shoots out in front of me. I'm just going to make sure I reward at my side. You'll notice that I use yes in a lot of the tutorials. That's all that means. That yes word just means what you've just done has won you the reward. And we're going to continue to build up steps. If I find that, say, I get to 5, 6, 7, or however many steps, and my dog keeps failing, they keep going out in front of me, that's just an indication that you're probably pushing too fast and you want to go down and then build your way back up. So say that I'm struggling at 7 steps, maybe I go back to 5 steps or 4 steps, and then I just build my way back up until we can do 7 steps with no problem. So that is the first part. So I'll do that again, just to show you again with, let's go for 4 steps. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, yes, good. Now, if you've got a dog that has been pulling for a long time, don't be disheartened if you really have to be very, very quick, because some dogs have pulled for such a long time that you have to be really, really quick on that first step. So if I bring it back, Jax. Right, now, if Jax was a dog that pulls a lot, then what I would do is I would take that first step, yes, and I would want to beat him to the punch, essentially. I'm trying to Reward him before he even has a chance to pull. If you've got a dog that has been pulling for a long time, you're going to have to be really quick in the beginning stages, and what you'll probably find with those dogs is your first 5 steps are your hardest, and once you get past that, it gets easier. So don't be disheartened by that. Keep going and you will get there. Okay, so for step 2 of this training, I'm going to show you what to do when Jax pulls. Now, to make this easy for you, what I would suggest doing is choosing which side you want your dog to walk on. So for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to have Jax walk on my right side, and that means I'm going to have the lead in my left hand and the treats on the same side as him. If you wanted your dog on the left hand side, you just do the reverse, so you'd have the lead in your right hand and the treats in your left hand side. Okay, so now let me show you how that works when we actually start walking. So I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to deliberately have Jax get it wrong. So if I have Jax get in front of me just to show you what to do when he starts pulling. Jax. Okay, so let's say he's gone out in front of me here. Now what I need to do is turn to the side and have him come and touch my hand. Now it's really important that you don't have anything in your hand as you come and get them to touch it, because otherwise we're going to become reliant on having food in our hand. So if I turn to the side, yes, good boy. Now I've marked him there, I've used my word yes, but I'm going to straighten up as I reward him. And again, I'm rewarding him parallel to my leg because this is where I want to encourage him to stay. And then we're ready to reset to stage 1 and start building up steps again. So then we can go to 1, 2, 3. If your dog goes behind you like Jax has, it's really important that we teach him that that's not okay. What a lot of people will do is they'll switch their hands around and do all the work for the dog. The problem is your dog's never going to learn to stay on one side of you if you're constantly facilitating that. So instead, what I'm going to do is encourage Jax to get back on the right side himself, okay? So now we can go back to the training. He's gone out in front of me. I'm going to turn to the side, get him to touch. Yes. Straighten up before I reward. Good, and then we're going to go back to what we were doing in step 1, which is building up those steps. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, yes. Good. Now just for the sake of showing you what happens when it goes wrong again, I'm gonna encourage him to pull a little bit. So if he goes out in front of me, perfect. Turn to the side, touch, yes. Reward, and then we're ready to go back to it. Now, in order to be successful with this training, you should be doing far more of part 1 than part 2. Part 2 is just what happens when it goes wrong, right? At least 80% of the time, you should just be building up steps, 1 step at a time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. What you shouldn't find yourself doing is constantly calling your dog back. That's probably a sign that you're pushing too quickly, and in which case you should reduce the number of steps you take before progressing on. Okay, so that is how to teach your dog to walk nicely on the lead. What I would say is I wouldn't suggest doing that for your entire walk because you will drive yourself mad. Instead, take a couple of minutes out of your walk to practice it. Remember to switch equipment so you're not constantly undoing all of the practice that you're putting in. And I hope you enjoyed this video. We would love it if you subscribe and check out another one of our videos, which I'll put up here.